If you ask a nutritionist what the biggest evil in our diet is, most of them will say sugar. Many of us know how hard it is to quit sugar, how addictive it is, and how hard it is to give it up once and for all. But there is a way out, of course. In this video, I have collected the basic ways and techniques to stop eating sweets, so watch the video till the end. It will be very interesting and useful. By the way, friends, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell too. Do not miss my novelties. So first, let's break down for a general understanding of why we want to eat sweets. First, we often crave something sweet because of an unbalanced diet. There are not enough complex carbohydrates in the diet, either fats or proteins, which take much longer to be broken down and digested than simple sugars. That is why we start to feel hunger quickly. Accordingly, it is necessary to add complex carbohydrates, fiber, protein, and fats in reasonable amounts. Another reason for craving sweets is work, which is associated with vigorous mental activity. Yes, our brains are powered by glucose. And the brain, our brain, is probably the most voracious organ. While it weighs 2% of our body weight, it eats up 20% of our oxygen. Another reason we can crave sweets is because we are constantly stressed, often without realizing that we are living in a stressful environment. For example, we were under stressful circumstances since childhood. Yelling and fighting was the norm in the house. Then we entered adulthood, where, again, yelling and arguing was the norm. Objectively speaking, this is a stressful situation, which is destructive to our body. And since we are under stress, the body seeks to compensate for this somehow, and to take pleasure where we have missed it. That's why people often eat what's called stress, because when we eat something sweet, candy, much less chocolate, we get our dose of dopamine, that same pleasure neurotransmitter, which somehow, so locally, temporarily, but kills the accumulated stress. That's why it's a good idea to remove the source of stress, not just deal with its consequences. The main thing to do now is to give up the sweets and the practical advice to follow. So first, you need to give preference to complex carbohydrates rather than simple ones. Complex carbohydrates are those carbohydrates that take much longer to digest, which have a lower glycemic index, and which will provide a feeling of fullness for a longer time. Second, we need to add, oddly enough, fats to our diet. We generally need to remove sugar and replace the same calories with fats. And that would be a very good switch. Fats are a great way to help curb hunger. If we consume, well, of course, an adequate amount of fats, then we will not have this constant desire inside to have something to snack on, to satisfy that hunger. Generally speaking, what causes this constant hunger? It comes from the fact that by abusing sweets, we raise our insulin in the blood, and this hormone provides an increased appetite. It directly affects our appetite. So it's not surprising that such a simple pattern emerges. More sweets, more appetite. We begin to eat it again with sweets because we are already used to it, and we get into this vicious circle. Therefore, it is necessary to understand that the love of the sweet is really a vicious circle, which reinforces itself and which must simply be broken. Moving on. If we do eat something sweet, well, let's say, sometimes we have some indulgences. It's basically not forbidden just a little bit. That is, it needs to be slow and gradual. Chewing for a long time and not rushing anywhere, very slowly, measured and thoroughly. Because if we eat it on the fly and even fast, then we can eat half an hour in half an hour. But if we eat in small portions, we'll eat twice or 3 times less. And in the long run, we'll be at an advantage. Remember this simple rule. Sweets need to eat slowly. Let's move on. The next psychological way. The technique is very important, and it is even often recommended, even by neurophysiologists. So in order not to have a temptation, do not stumble on it. If you can't refuse and resist sweet muffins, candies, and buns, then just never keep them in your house. Just don't buy them. And if you live with someone else, ask them to either buy them or don't buy them, so that you won't even be tempted to think about it. If you go to the supermarket, just walk by with your eyes closed past all those departments and don't even look there. Ultimately, those people who have studied the workings of our brain, and in particular, the limbic system of the internal parts of our brain, the very system that is responsible for this seeking out delicious food and getting excited about it. These experts say that we don't know how much excitement the limbic system has in any given person. Maybe a sweet tooth has it so highly aroused that he really can't get over the withdrawal. And some people do have this disadvantage, that they have a heightened need and excitability of the limbic system for sweets. So it's most effective for these people to not even be tempted. That's to keep all those sweets out of sight. Moving on, never reward yourself with sweets. That is, for example, you worked out so hard, so much effort put in, and we want to reward ourselves psychologically. Now I'll eat a chocolate. Either you worked very well, or you worked all night long on some important report, or you were preparing for a session. And now I'll reward myself by eating candy. On the one hand, to reward yourself for hard work is certainly right. It tames us to hard work, and it encourages it, great. But there is one thing. But with this approach, we begin to value sweets as a reward, and that's a bad attitude. We should not see sweets as a profitable trophy. If we want to minimize sweets, then we must change our attitude toward them. We must cool down to them, not see them as some kind of reward that is cool, cherished, and so desirable. No, they must turn into something neutral or even negative for us, with a minus sign. It is not at all a reward to be honored. Of course, I understand that it is also important to reward yourself for your hard work, but think of another way, not with sweets, but with something else that is more useful. And by the way, there is still such an educational moment. Child psychologists often recommend not to reward children with sweets too. Here you got an A. Find a candy. Because if you do so much, then with age, when the child becomes an adult, he too will perceive sweets as some advantageous and very cool achievement, which is something to strive for. His brain will already unconsciously perceive it, and when he will have the ability to buy his own candy, then he can start buying it for himself in unlimited quantities. Here is such an important psychological moment. The next method, which is also very effective, is physical activity. It has long been proven and is well known that any physical activity dulls our appetite. The effect lasts up to 2 hours. If we want to eat something sweet, go for a walk somewhere in the park, or do a series of squats, a series of push-ups. Up to 2 hours you can get the effect of dulling your appetite. The next trick is for any impulse to eat something sweet, drink a glass of water. Our stomach is so set up that its receptors don't do a very good job of distinguishing between something inside and something inside in terms of nutritional content. Here it's full, and it thinks it means I'm full, so you can really fill it up with water and dull the feeling of hunger. However, remember that the signal of satiety from the stomach can go up to 20 minutes to our brain, that it will not be instantaneous, but over time it will be. By the way, friends, write in the comments, and you eat a lot of sweets? Or have you already given it up? It will be interesting to tell. And now I recommend you to watch my other video, the link to the video you just got on your screen. And if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. See you soon.